So here's a quick tutorial I really wanted to show you. Basically, I want to introduce you to Firebase. Firebase is seriously the future for cloud programming, and cloud programming is the future of programming because everything's going to go on the cloud. Everything's just going to be there. If you don't know what the cloud is, it's basically everything stays on the internet and stuff won't stay on your computer. Maybe that's not exciting. Hopefully you're the right person to understand it because maybe you know why you're here, right? So anyway, Firebase, amazing, but unfortunately the real other kind of big reason why I'm making this tutorial is that when Firebase was on Firebase.com before it was bought by Google, it was amazing. It was like it had amazing tutorials, and the code was a bit easier as well. And then they got bought by Google, and then they screwed things up. But luckily, I was there just before they moved over to firebase.google.com from firebase.com, and I still had some of the tutorials code from firebase.com. So I was a bit lucky, and I was like feeling so sorry for anybody who had to learn from the existing firebase.google.com tutorials. They're rubbish, and the YouTube videos are seriously rubbish as well. So anyway, here's my attempt to fix that little issue. Right, so let's do it. So I've got a tutorial on my website, and that tutorial, the link to the tutorial is in the description of the video, so you don't have to go through these tiny steps here, but you can. It's good to know, right? It's in the programming section, in the advanced cloud programming, whatever, and a bit called messaging. So you'll see this link at the... Oh, what? Okay, go back. Didn't want to click there. Anyway, so what's going to happen here is that there's going to be two little web pages. Page one, the sender page, and a receiver page. And I'm just going to send a bit of data from one page to the other, and it's really easy. Don't know how long this video is going to be, but seriously, it could be done like in a minute. It's like copy paste, bang, 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 right? So let's do that, right? And to make things easier so you can see what's happening, I love using Thimble. I teach computer stuff at schools, and I love Thimble. It's a bit of cloud-based work for you. Basically, you don't have to install it. It just works, and it does some cool stuff for you. So what it does is, like, as you're making some web page code, you can see it, without pressing refresh on the code you made or saving your code anywhere. It shows you the result of your work. Yeah, it's a bit slow sometimes. I think that's my internet or something, because normally it's not that slow. Okay, let's watch this Thimble logo go round and round. Okay, fine. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, see, can you see how much everything's lagging on my computer right now? What's that? That's some bit from another bit of my tutorial somehow. Anyway, let's copy this. It's really lagging on my computer right now, the highlight and everything. So it probably could be a bit faster. Alright. So this is the sender page where I'm going to put a few numbers in there, press send, and then it's going to go over to Firebase and back to this other page. So let's copy the receiver page, copy, oh yeah, so the link to Thimble, I can't be bothered to type in Thimble, so there we go, Thimble, right. What a lovely logo they have of a thimble. Do you know what that is? When you're doing a bit of sewing, you put your thumb in there. Why would you call it thimble, eh? Why? No. Should I start singing? Like, when you're waiting for something to happen, that kind of music. Yeah, I'm not very good at singing. You probably don't want to hear me sing. Really, you don't. Could practice, then I'll be good. Okay, paste. Now look at my receiver page, nice and blank. Okay, because basically there's only a placeholder which has got nothing on it. Maybe I need to improve this little tutorial. Let's improve the tutorial right now. Okay, I'm going to, so this is the only visible bit, well, potentially visible bit on the website. Can you see it goes blue there? It's highlighting where it is. Be visible. Okay, now it's visible. All right. Now, and then later on, that placeholder is going to be changed to whatever comes out of the Firebase database in a minute. Okay, so we got our, let's separate the browser bit. So no, get away, you go away. What do I want? Yeah, so I'll grab this tab, stick it here. All right, now, so this is the sender page, receiver page, but it can't work yet because I haven't put the actual, basically passwords and stuff to access my database, because you don't want any old stranger accessing the database. Actually, it's pretty stupid though, because all this stuff can be viewed on your web page. You just have to press view source and you'll be able to see it. But there is a proper way to control who gets to access your database, yeah? And we'll talk about that in the next step. So how do I get these passwords and stuff? Basically, let's go back to my tutorial. And so once I copy pasted the code for both of the pages, let's get my password. How do I do it? I just click on firebase.google.com and I have to have signed up to it. So I've already signed up with my Google account. That's my Google logo, my YouTube, whatever, you know, my, well, who cares? And click go to console. Yeah, waiting for it to load, and then create a new project. Can you see all these ridiculous project names I put? Yeah, okay, here's another ridiculous project name. You create project. Things are really slow at the moment. I don't think they're normally this slow. Round and round. Oh, okay. So, and I'm not making an Android or iOS thing. I'm making a web-based thing, right? So it'll give me the code that I need to stick in a web-based app. If you want to make a proper cloud-based app, you should be using a web-based app, don't you think? Not iOS specific, like, you know, not iPhone specific or Android specific, just cloud, proper cloud, works everywhere. So copy that, and I'm going to replace, go to my thimble, yeah, can you see this XXX? That's obviously not proper username password. Replace that stuff with this. Now you can see my proper rubbish, and we need it both on this side and the receiver page. So same stuff, paste it here as well. Okay, now that doesn't really control who's going to access your database. This is just some stupid stuff. I don't even know why they bothered with it, right? Because it wasn't in the original Firebase code before they moved to Google. Anyway, so yeah, so how do I control who accesses the database? Well, there are a bunch of rules that you have to put in, and I've just copied the anybody can use it rule, which looks like this. I know, it looks really ugly, right? Anyway, so how do you access the rules? So I just made this thing. We clicked this a minute ago to get the passwords and stuff. Now I'm going to go to the left, click on database, and go to rules. and replace that with the stuff I've just got from my tutorial, right? Say publish, then it's going to warn me saying, are you insane? Do you want anybody in the public to use your database? So yeah, because I'm going to delete this afterwards, so it doesn't really matter, right? But what these rules should be like is like only person from yourwebsite.com, whatever, can access the database, because basically you're going to put your web page, your web app, on somewhere on your website, right? So basically you only want it to be accessible from your website. You don't want it accessible from some stranger's website, so they're going to use your database. You don't want that happening, right? So anyway, that makes us ready to, you know, use our little example. Let's use our example. So how do I use the example? Well, let's make it so we don't see so much of the code, because we don't care about the code right now. We want to show this thing in action. So let's squeeze this as well. This is the code. This is the code in action. All right. So I put in that, press send, and it's not refreshing. Don't know why. There you go, temperature. So basically it used to say be visible, but let's talk about what's happening in the code now. Okay, yeah, it used to say, let's talk about this code. This is the receiver code. No, I talk about the sender code first, right? Sender code is here. Make it nice and big. Okay, so sender code, what's it saying? Well, there's this line, which is basically accessing the Firebase API, basically the code that helps you talk to Firebase, right? You're going to use a little bit of the code, but there's a whole bunch of code behind that code that helps you talk to Firebase. Then there's this second link, which accesses Ajax, which basically makes your web page dynamic. And there's a link at the bottom of my tutorial. We'll get to that in a bit if you want to know a bit more about that, right? What's next? There's this text input, which is basically this. And it's got an ID, a name called temp input, temperature input. And before we typed in anything, it used to say temperature. It used to say temperature over here, right? It's just a nice thing to do. Then there's a button, this button there, and when you click it, it's going to do button action, which is this thing here, which we're going to talk about in a second. Yeah, that's what it says on the button there. There we go. Then there's this, which we just talked about, basically the passwords to access the Firebase database. And yeah, this doesn't matter as part of this. And then this matters a little bit. So the Firebase database, your Firebase database, you can put any crazy stuff into it, right? So let's make a little corner in that Firebase database, your Firebase database, called temperature. Makes sense, right? Let's call it temperature, because we're going to be sending temperature information. And then I'm going to have a reference to that in my particular web page called temperature data ref for reference. Okay. So once I do this, it makes a little place in my Firebase database called temperature, which I can access here and in the other receiver page as well. And I'm going to call it in this page, I'm going to call it temperature data ref, and I'm going to use it in a second. Well, now. Okay, so when somebody clicks this button, it's going to call this method, which is here, and that method, what it does, it calls this this field, which has a name called temp input, temperature input, because I input my temperature data from there, and it's going to get the value from here, the val from here and stick it in a little variable I call temp. Yeah, and then I'm going to stick temp into my little object in Firebase database, which I've called, this is the reference to it, and I'm going to set it. I'm going to set this little object call to this data, which is 6666 whatever, stick it in there, right? And this object can have all sorts of things, right? I could make an object with the time as well, a time field, but I don't have any time info coming up yet. You know, you might want to save the time when the temperature is recorded, right? So anyway, so this temperature object in the database also has a temperature field within it. Now I think I should call it temp, because I don't like that it's got the same name. Temperature object has got a field called temp in it, which I save temp to it. My god, hopefully that's not confusing. Anyway, so jumping over to the other side, I'm gonna have to change this now. So anyway, all this other stuff is the same. We've got this access to Firebase database, access to Ajax, which makes the page dynamic, and this is a little bit different. That's what I talked about a minute ago. It's a little placeholder which is going to change, or has changed already. This we already know. This is just the passwords to access Firebase database. Temperature data ref. I'm just going to call this ref, because it doesn't have to have the same name as the other file, right? This is just specific. So I'm going to call it, this is a variable called ref, and it accesses, this has got to be the same, because there's a place in Firebase now called temperature, right? And if when ref changes, so let's copy ref, copy that. I was calling it this long name before, which is the same name I gave in the other file, but I'm trying to show you that that doesn't have to be the same, right? So when ref value changing, okay, this thing is going to happen. It's going to get a snapshot, like just what's happening to the temperature object on Firebase at this moment in time, and I'm going to throw it out into this variable called output. Makes sense, it's the output, right, from the Firebase database, and I'm going to stick it into my little placeholder up here, right? So it's going to, what am I going to stick? I'm going to stick this piece of HTML on it. It's got a, if you recognize this B tag, which means bold, so I'm going to write in bold the word temperature followed by the temperature. So I get the temperature from the output, and there is no longer a field called temperature in this temperature object. It's now called temp. Yeah, let's change it to temp. Temp. So temp is there, and it's undefined now because I saved it to something called temperature before. So let's go back. Now it's called temp. Where are you, temp? There you go, temp. Now send. Oh, you probably didn't see anything happen, did you? Hopefully. See, there's 323, whatever. 323, 323. So if I didn't say it already, basically what just happened is I press send, it goes up to Firebase land and comes back down to this page here. There are two separate pages. What else is there to say? Nothing else really. Let's go back to my tutorial. The only tiny thing to say is that if you didn't understand the stuff with dollar signs, go to this jQuery tutorial. It's very nice. Click on it. It goes to one of my favorite tutorial places, w3schools.com, and very easy to use tutorial. You just try stuff out. You like change something. My web page is, everything's running extremely slowly because my computer's about to crash or something. But it's really good tutorial. All W3 school tutorials are really good because you can just change something and it updates a bit like Thimble. Okay, well, thank you for listening. Let's end this recording.